In my family, love wasn't a feeling. It was a line item on a ledger. A transaction. And 3 years ago, I was officially declared bankrupt of it. I remember the smell of that room-expensive mahogany and the faint, metallic scent of my mother's perfume. 12 of my relatives sat around that table, dressed as if they were attending a funeral. In a way, they were. They were attending mine. My mother spoke first, her voice as crisp and cold as a winter morning. "You were always our biggest disappointment, Elara. We tried to guide you toward law, toward the firm. You chose canvases and debt." She didn't even look at me. She just slid the inheritance waiver across the polished wood, like she was discarding a piece of trash. Beside her sat my sister Celeste, the golden child, the brilliant lawyer who never missed a deadline or a chance to remind me of my failures. Celeste didn't say a word, but her posture straight, rigid, triumphant said everything. She was watching me, a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips. I looked at my father, searching for a sign, any sign of support. He was busy adjusting his silver cufflinks, his gaze fixed on a point on the wall just past my left ear. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Not once. In his silence, he co-signed their verdict. I was guilty. Guilty of not being who they wanted me to be. I picked up the heavy, gold-plated pen. The ink felt thick, permanent. That afternoon, I signed away my rights to a $4 million estate. In that moment, I wasn't a daughter anymore. I was a subtraction, a problem that had finally been solved. I stood up, my legs feeling unsteady. I walked out of that house with $3,200 in my bank account and a return to sender label on my heart. Behind me, the heavy oak doors clicked shut. It was a final, definitive sound. The last time I would hear from any of them for 3 years. When your family erases you, the world becomes deafeningly quiet. The silence is a physical weight. I moved to a city 300 miles away, a place where no one knew the Vance name or the baggage that came with it. I found a tiny studio apartment above a laundromat, a place I came to call the Grey Zone. The constant hum of the dryers below became the soundtrack to my life, and the heat only worked on Tuesdays. I lived on $4 boxes of cereal for dinner and took $50 design gigs for local cafes. Anything just to keep the lights on and the landlord off my back. Rock bottom isn't dramatic like it is in the movies. It's not a single explosive moment. It's tedious. It's the slow, grinding reality of counting every single cent, of lying awake at night, realizing you have no safety net, no one to call, no one to catch you if you fall. But while my sister Celeste was busy managing the family's beach houses and their sprawling investment accounts, I was learning a new language she would never understand. The language of the hustle. The language of pure, unadulterated survival. And then I met Helena. She was a commercial real estate titan. A force of nature who had been dismissed and underestimated by men like my father her entire career. She looked at my portfolio, not the art my parents mocked, but the structural vision I had for urban renewal projects. She pointed to a sketch of a dilapidated warehouse. "Most designers see a gutted building and see a problem," she said, her eyes sharp. "You see a cathedral. Why?" I looked her straight in the eye and said, "Because I know what it's like to be gutted and still be standing." Helena didn't give me a handout or a loan. She gave me a door. An opportunity. And I didn't just walk through it, I tore it off its hinges. I rebranded myself, launching my own firm. I called it Vantage Collective. No, Vance in the title. That name was part of the past. I wanted to build an empire so sturdy, so unshakable, that even my father's silence couldn't make its foundation tremble. By year 2, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was scaling. I was building. Success has a funny way of drawing out the predators you thought you'd left behind. By year 3, Vantage Collective had landed its first seven-figure contract designing a massive boutique hotel in Hartford. It was the culmination of everything I'd fought for. Everything was perfect, until the phone calls stopped. Within a single week, 2 of my major clients backed out of their contracts. No real explanation, just vague excuses. One of them, a man I had worked with closely for a year, sounded deeply uncomfortable on the phone. "Elara, look, we love your work. We really do. But we heard you're going through some personal instability, financial issues from your past. We just can't take the risk on the Vance name." I felt paralyzed. The Vance name? I hadn't used that name in years. How did they even know? The air left my lungs. A cold dread washed over me. We met in a quiet coffee shop on a rainy Tuesday. He didn't say a word at first. He just slid a tablet across the table toward me. "It was a chain of emails," he said, his voice low. "They were sent from a corporate law firm in Stamford, Celeste's firm." I started reading, and the blood drained from my face. My hands began to shake. Celeste wasn't just enjoying her $4 million. She was actively trying to destroy me. She was salting the earth behind me, ensuring nothing could ever grow. She had been emailing brokers, developers, and property managers, claiming I was financially irresponsible and that the family had cut me off due to serious legal concerns. She wasn't just a beneficiary of my exile. She was a saboteur. She was trying to kill the ghost she had helped create, because that ghost was starting to outshine her. But she made the classic mistake of the arrogant. She put her malice in writing. Marcus looked at me, his expression grim. "What do you want to do? We can sue for defamation today. We have a rock-solid case." I took a deep breath, the anger solidifying into something cold and clear. "No," I said. "Not yet. I want her to see me first." 3 years to the day after I signed that waiver, I walked into the Connecticut real estate gala. I didn't go there to beg for their forgiveness or to make a scene. I went there because Vantage Collective was the lead sponsor of the entire event. I saw them across the grand ballroom, my parents, looking older but just as polished, and Celeste, holding court at the bar with a group of senior partners from her firm. When my mother saw me, her champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. The recognition moved through her like a physical tremor. They expected to see a failure in a tattered coat. They didn't expect the woman whose firm now managed a $9.4 million portfolio. My father approached me first, his face a mixture of shock and awkward pride. "Elara, we heard you were in the city. We should talk. Maybe have dinner at the house." He tried to offer a handshake, a peace offering wrapped in arrogance. I looked at his hand, then back into his eyes. The same eyes that had refused to meet mine 3 years ago. "You didn't want to talk when I was sleeping on a studio floor, Dad," I said, my voice steady. "You didn't want to talk when you watched me sign that paper. You don't get to claim my success now just because it's convenient for your reputation." I turned to Celeste. Her face was pale, her eyes darting toward the partners she had lied to, the men she was trying to impress. She knew. She knew that Marcus had the emails. She knew the failure was the only person in the room with a clean name. She knew the failure was the only person in the room with a clean name. I leaned in just close enough for her to hear me. "By the way, Celeste, your firm's internal compliance department is going to be very interested in those emails you sent from the company server. I'd start updating your resume, if you even have one." The true reckoning didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened 2 weeks later in a land title office. Vantage Collective was finalizing the purchase of a 50-acre parcel for a new development. During the survey, we realized the boundary of our new land sat right next to the Vance family estate. Standard procedure required the neighboring property's attorney to sign off on the survey lines. That attorney was the same man who had overseen my disinheritance. When he called Marcus to verify the buyer, the silence on the other end of the line lasted a full 15 seconds. Marcus told me later you could hear a pin drop. The lawyer's voice was full of disbelief when he finally spoke. Wait. Elara Vance owns Vantage Collective, the entity with a $10 million valuation? Marcus replied coolly. That is correct. Is there a problem? That afternoon a letter arrived. It wasn't from a lawyer. It was on my father's personal stationery. I'm sorry, it said. Just 2 words, written in ink that had smudged because his hand had been shaking. He wanted to fix things. He offered to reinstate my inheritance. I called Marcus. Send one reply, I told him. Tell him I don't need his $4 million. I have my own 10. If he wants to talk about boundaries, he can file it through the proper legal channels. I have counsel now. I have my own 10. If he wants to talk about boundaries, he can file it through the proper legal channels. I have counsel now. It was the first time in my life I wasn't a daughter waiting for a crumb of approval. I was a principal with a shield. Setting boundaries with family isn't about cruelty. It's about survival. I didn't sue Celeste in the end. I didn't have to. The partners at her firm found the emails, and her reputation in the small, insular world of Stamford law evaporated overnight. I didn't go back to the house on Ridgewood Lane for Christmas, even when my mother sent 3 separate pleading invitations. I had built a life so full, so rich, so my own, that their opinion no longer fits anywhere inside it. If you are currently the disappointment of your family, if you are the one they've written off, the one they don't understand, hear me now. You don't need their permission to start over. You don't need their approval to succeed. You just need to build your own door and have the courage to walk right through it. I'm Elara Vance, and for the first time in my life, the ghost is the only one who is truly alive. Thanks for watching.